I had a leader come in and say, I have a proposal for you. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. And she said, will you? I was like, yes, of course. Will you do anything with it? Now, she was a little skeptical. She didn't think I would. So she challenged me. And I had to think about it in that split moment, and I remember the day. Will I do something with this information? And what she told me was that the largest contributor to a landfill is food. And I know from my work across different areas of the world that we have people starving. And so my why became about social justice. And so it was the impetus for why I was going to get behind her idea and why I was going to use my personal and political collateral at the firm to make a difference. It was grassroots. It was a few people that got together and decided, you know what? Edward Jones needs to fulfill the legacy that was started by Ted and Pat. And so now in our cafeterias, we'll give food to various charities, food that would have been thrown away. We compost all of our food waste throughout our campuses. And we give money to, obviously, Operation Food Search so they can feed the children in St. Louis. We also got involved with the Green Challenge. And it's hard to believe that only several years ago we were using styrofoam. That's all been eliminated from our cafeterias and our facilities. Again, grassroots. So this was embarrassing to me. We started to measure. At Edward Jones, what gets measured gets done. And I heard the question, how do you measure? Right? A little tricky. But this was embarrassing to me, that we're this far off from the worldwide measure and metric. So we had to determine how we're going to move forward. So fast forward to 2019, we now have a 9-year plan for the next 9 years as far as how we're going to tackle this as a firm. This was the building that we owned a portion of a floor in 1971. It was renovated in 2013, 2014. It was a repurpose. It was supposed to be raised, and it was repurposed instead. And it represents the entrance now to our North Campus. Europe, I've learned a lot in my world travels. They respect the environment, they respect the buildings, they respect history, they respect culture, and they find a way to repurpose their buildings. That's what this building here represents to us. We also have a founder's footpath that was supposed to be temporary because we were going to build a building in a garage in its place. And now we call it Founder's Footpath. It's a park-like setting. We've also been working with Maryland Heights on their Great Streets initiative because we believe that there should be a public-private partnership. We are the largest financial services partnership that exists now in the United States. But we believe there should be partnerships between local municipalities for the benefit of residents, right, as well as us. And the first time we did that was back in 08, 09. We made improvements to the DePere Lake. It operates as our flood protection. We have a rainforest or a rain garden on campus to handle the overall pollution. But now the city has an amenity that children, parents, and grandchildren can use. So this is interesting. Waste diversion. Should be simple, right? It looks simple. You have that throughout campus here. People should be able to sort. But do they? They don't. Why not? Because it's not simple. Because they have to change their behaviors. In some cases, because they have to think, right? You give them pictures, give them words, right? But you're asking people to change their behaviors. You're asking people to change, right, their perspective. You have to get to a point where you want to get to no trace left behind, a selfless disposition, in order to make a difference for someone else. So you have to educate them, and that's what this is all about. So I like to build. I'm an architect by education. I like to build. I like to see progress. So I was, back in 2015, we did an analysis of our real estate. Associates were in their workstations about 40% of the time. Where were they? 40% of the time? As an architect, that's a failing grade. So what's happening is we need to collaborate more effectively, cross-divisionally, removing silos in order for people to come up with innovative solutions from diverse perspectives. That's the only way we're going to have a solve for the complex issues that are currently confronting us. We can't maintain the silos. So I went to our executives and said, we can repurpose our existing real estate. We don't need to expand our footprint. We need to use our existing real estate more effectively. So we went to an activity-based work environment where people had choice. They could determine who they were working with, when they were working with them, in what setting, in order to ensure that there were no silos between our divisions, between our buildings, between our campuses. Now, do you think that was popular? It wasn't. I had approval from our executives, but I didn't have advocacy. And so I would stand in front of people and tell them that they no longer had an assigned workstation. I was not popular. I had a woman come up to me in the elevator lobby and said, I am having nightmares. And if you know me, I'm a very sensitive person. And so it broke my heart when she told me that. I had no idea who she was. So I found her. I found out who it was. And I went to her after she moved into the space, and she said, would not go back to the way it was. Our culture is one of working in partnership, face-to-face, whether it's with our financial advisors and our clients or at home office. And this environment allowed us that opportunity. But it also allowed us to overlay wellness onto our campus. And we have another person in our department that has this as her passion, getting people up, out, over, right, instead of sitting all day. Taking away their individual waste baskets, that wasn't popular either. But it was for their overall benefit. So that's why I asked you what your personal why was, because you have to have a vision. And you have to be willing to take it, right, when you've got a target on your chest, to do what's right. And that vision can be decades into the future. So you can have a project plan, right? You can have a communications plan and a resistance plan, but the way it's going to play out is like a scatter diagram. And you've got to be willing and tenacious to see that vision fulfilled.